Hi, I'm Mark with Macroscopic Solutions. Now we're going to get back to processing our images. So all of the images have been now captured with the Macropod MacroBox system, and what we need to do is move forward to focus stack the images and then ultimately combine them. So the whole process is incredibly simple, but I am going to detail a few steps, especially if this is your first time using the system. It's good to have your settings figured out. So let's just jump right into this. The first thing to do is open the folder where you stored your images. I did a couple of different scans. I did some at a higher magnification on my own, and I did another section of scans actually that I used in the demo video 4.0. So we're going to refer to those images. So you'll find them here in this folder. It's nice to actually just sort of take a look. You just want to make sure that you're flash fired every time. You don't have any images that showed up black because it didn't fire. And you just want to make sure your lighting, it's kind of actually incredible. These Godox flashes with these diffusers, they diffuse light way better than I think some of the older Turtle Dove diffusers I used to make. So I'm actually pretty happy about the lighting here, even though that the flashes were aimed directly at the samples. It looks like the light is pretty uniform and balanced. That said, I can't give myself too much kudos because I find Lepidoptera somewhat simple to image, especially if there's minimal iridescence. In this case, that's true. So, but now let's move forward with rendering these images. So the first thing to do is sort of take note on how many images you captured per frame. So as you see here, I'll just sort of adjust my folder so that you can see what I see. Basically, I'm counting that each new field where we captured depth of field, or in each new frame, I captured a total of 6 photographs. So we don't want to just manually separate out all of these different images. That's going to take forever and be a huge waste of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that over here, and we're going to open a program called FolderX. FolderX, in case, again, this is your first time sort of using the software package that Macroscopic Solutions sent to you in an email, everybody that purchases a system usually receives a folder called Macropod Files and Software Packages. If you go down here to the software download section, all of the relevant software that you need, you can download directly by clicking on these links. So FolderX can be installed on a PC, the Metashape installer, Zareen Stacker installer, and you can just install your licenses and update as needed. Also remember, the Canon EOS utility is very important to install. There's no license for this. It's included with your Canon DSLR camera body. But the EOS utility here, this is what you will use in order to control your camera remotely from your computer. So that's a very important, critical piece of software that everybody should download. Once that's downloaded, if you look up here in the upper right-hand corner, this is my EOS utility. That's the remote that I'm saying that's what you control your camera with. I have my Zareen Stacker organized up here. I have my 3D modeling software that's sort of categorized in another column over. And then just so everybody also knows, I keep an active 2D and an active 3D folder. If I'm doing 3D models, this is where I send the images in my directory. If I'm taking 2D images, for example, like I'm doing here, I would save them into active 2D. Inside, I basically create a master folder, and my images are saved internally within that. However, to save space, because of the size of these images, because we're doing massive panoramics, I actually stored the images directly on this external hard drive, which is why you didn't find them in there, but I have an active 2D folder on my external. So what we want to do now is just separate out these folders, these images into individual folders. So there's a very easy way to do that with FolderX. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the folder where all of these images are stored. So remember, it's on my external hard drive. I stored them in Video Tutorials, African Lepidoptera, and this was the April 2nd edition. So I selected that folder. And now what I want to do is click the By Amount tab, and I know that there are 6 individual images per frame. So I'm just going to enter a 6 here, and I'm going to press Split. Once I do that, you're going to start to see folders crop up in the directory. So it's a really handy tool to really quickly separate out those folders. So now if I click on any one of these, you can see they contain the individual field of use. So the next thing to do is to batch stack all of these folders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and now we're going to open up our Zareen stacker. I haven't opened Zareen stacker in a little while. It's been a while since I've been able to get to my hobby and actually image. I've been building a lot of systems lately. So it's kind of nice to move over here. I'm happy that there's no update, so it looks like I did use it somewhat recently. What I'm going to do here too is, before I get started, I just want to click on options and preferences. If you haven't registered your license yet, you can register that right down here through registration and follow those instructions. But we're going to go to options, preferences, and I just want to make sure that if you've installed this software for the first time, these are default. You want to turn off automatic order, because we want to stack images from back to front. It works better with the scale bars. And I want to disable brightness. Brightness is going to introduce its own photo editing effects, and we want the original colors and brightnesses that we captured in our original camera settings. So uncheck those. You also want to go to caching, memory usage, and you want to hit set automatically, accept current settings, and apply and OK. This is going to make sure that the software is running optimally according to the specs of your machine. You might need to restart, just shut down Zareen and reopen it after you do that, but that's a good idea. You can also just sort of make sure that you're using all available cores and processors in the multi-processing tab. So those are a few preliminary steps on Zareen Stacker if you're just now using it for the first time that I'd like everybody to do. Now what I'll do is I'll just show you how to do a stack, but basically you're just going to drag a folder, drop it into input, and then you're going to move up here to the top. And once the image data has been moved in here, it's a little slower because it's coming again from an external hard drive. You would click stack, align and stack all PMAX, and then that's going to stack your data. However, we have a lot of individual folders to do because we're doing a large panoramic. So the way to do this is to open up batch and show batch dialog. What we're going to do is highlight all of our folders and drag them into this section, as I just did. And then we are going to create a new folder within that African Lepidoptera section. So we'll just go home, find the external hard drive. Is it this one? Nope, not that one. All right, let's find this external. Here it is. Video tutorials, African Lepidoptera. We're going to create a new folder. We'll just call it Final 100mm. And I can't remember the video, I have to actually refer to it, but it's a good idea to sort of include the scale that you used. I can't remember, I need to confirm, but typically, like if I used the 100mm, I would want to type in that working distance. So if I was 35 centimeters away from the sample, I'd want to type in 35 centimeters. That way I can select the appropriate scale bar when I go to add scale. But for now, we'll just call it Final 100mm. I'm going to go inside that folder, and I'm going to click on the white space here and click Save. So now you can see I have my directory selected, and I want to do Save in Designated Folder as source name. Now I want to add the function here, which is going to be to align and stack all in PMAX. I'm going to press OK. Now I'm going to save this batch to queue, run all batches, and now what we can do is we can sit back and watch the data process. It shouldn't take too long with this much data. I can actually close this dialog window, and we can take a look from here. So happy viewing. Okay, the batch execution is now complete. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit OK, and we're going to close the Zareen Stacker. It's good to just take a look. We're going to go to the African Lepidoptera folder and just select the folder where we saved the final focus stacks. It's important to note that that's not the right folder. Sorry about that. final 100. So it's important to note that the entire process took about a half an hour. And the reason for that is twofold. One is we shot the data using an aperture of f11, so we had a bit of a bigger depth of field than I would actually recommend. f8, you're going to get a quality boost. However, you're probably going to be on the order of 10 to 12 images per frame at this specific magnification. So that introduces sort of the second fold item, which is, of course, your working distance and your overall magnification. The more magnified you are, the smaller the field of view, the smaller the depth of field, and the more images you need to process. So sometimes if you are capturing a highly magnified panoramic, what you will want to do is do all of your image capturing during the day, during the work hours, and then perhaps run a batch stack while overnight when you go home. That way, when you come back the next day, all of your data is ready for stitching. So what we're going to do now is take all of this data and merge it together, and I'm going to show everybody here how to do that. For this step, what we're going to use is Photoshop. Now, the photo merging software is something that's a little bit tricky for Macroscopic Solutions to supply our customers with, so we kind of leave the focus, like the actual panoramic merging, up to the end user. The reason for that is because we're working with a lot of institutions that already have licenses with Adobe, so they just need to download it from their institution, in which case Photoshop is a pretty easy and good platform to use. And it's only going to improve if the capabilities of your operating system are pretty exceptional. So this computer is running 32 gigabytes of RAM. If you have higher than that, that's going to be even better. But I'll show everybody here how to do an actual panoramic merge. Sometimes it is important to note that Photoshop can be a little bit finicky. So if you're using Photoshop, maybe if you have, so I'm just going to sort of adjust the folders here so everybody can see the images laid out as rows. So you can see here we have our total set of rows. If I were to actually make this a little bit smaller here, that's actually going to be the entire box. You can actually do panoramic strips, so do 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, and generate basically, well, it looks like it's going to be 8 rows of panoramics, and then you can merge those 8 rows together. So that's sometimes a roundabout solution, but I also want to just sort of point out some of the other things that have worked. So this section right here, from Folder Axe to GigaPan Stitch to Image Composite to PanaWeaver, this is basically a variety of focus merging, blending panoramic software that I've used in the past. Now, GigaPan is actually very good. The problem is the software is really no longer supported since GigaPan isn't with us anymore. However, Image Composite is Microsoft's version of a panoramic merger. So Image Composite Editor is something I'd recommend. This is and should be free for most people. Sorry, let me just turn off my sound here. Yeah, so let's see, there's a couple of updates. So photosynth.net panoramas. I did the other day take a look to see how to find this, and I had trouble actually finding the actual download. I think Microsoft is just doing a bit of reorganization on their side from the download pane. But know that if you want to do a new panorama from images, you just click this button here, and again, we'll go to our external hard drive, find the African Lepidoptera folder. And the final images. We're just going to select all of these and press open. So you can see now all the data's in here. Import, everything is in order because we stacked everything in order. And what's nice is you can assist with the organization of the actual layout. So each of these is numbered, and I can actually change this layout if I need to, if I want to do a serpentine. I can also change if it warps or not. But basically, I found this software to be really, really useful So what we're going to do is we're going to press next, and we'll let this process. But also, while that's working, we're going to open up Photoshop as well, and I'll show everybody how to generate a panoramic in there. Now remember, the row method is something that does become sometimes pretty important when you're dealing with Photoshop. Photoshop's focus stacking and panoramic merging capabilities can sometimes be a little bit finicky. And in order to do a merge in Photoshop, what you're going to do is click on File, move down here to Automate and Photo Merge. And just like we just did in the image composite editor, we're going to grab our files from the directory. Press OK. And you don't want to auto resize these images. You want the images to be the exact same dimensions when you captured them. That way everything is accurately in position. So you want to click just reposition the images. If you notice, there's no way to align these images together, which is the sort of unfortunate part from on Adobe's part. So I wish one day they would actually release a more intuitive panoramic merging platform. But for now, this photo merge function is what you'll be using. Once you've clicked reposition and you've uploaded your files, you're just going to press OK, and the software is going to work in the background. So we're going to let this move forward, but in the meantime, you can see it's already pulling in data. It's going to start to analyze each of these images and then attempt to put them all together. We're going to go back to Image Composite Editor, however. You can see the images are actually already aligned. It's just finishing up compositing now. But in a moment, we're going to get our first look at the completed panoramic of the insect box, which is kind of a neat thing. This will be actually my first merged product after demonstrating the system. So let's just wait for this to appear. Okay, so here's our first look at the data. You can see actually we have a little bit of warping. It took a lot of actually the samples are aligned very, very well, but you can see the height around the box because it was a bit, well, obviously much higher than the actual butterflies. It looks like it struggled with the alignment of those. But I do think that here you're actually able to really mess with the projection. I think that perspective is probably the best. And now what we want to do is we'll kind of align this in the grid, and then we're going to move forward into the crop function. And what we'll be left with is an exportable image. You can adjust the file format. It looks like you can save it as a PNG, Adobe. I think there's a way to save it as a TIFF as well. I think that's if you capture a TIFF. I caught it as a JPEG, so you can't, obviously, you can't change that. It shows the total area, so the number of megapixels. This is 919 megapixels. So here, even at f11, this is a very large image. We should be able to zoom all the way in and make out the scale. So you can see the individual scale detail down here. Here's the pin. The pin actually is very good at demonstrating the intensity of the lighting. So this is a very glossy head. So it's nice to actually look at those and just sort of make sure that they're not like bright white and washed out like they normally are if they were just hit with direct lighting. But you can see wherever the labels are visible, we can very easily read those labels. I may try and mess around a little bit more with image capture in a more oblique fashion to capture that label data. But for here, you know, we have a very nice composite of all of these butterflies in the box and quite a high quality image. Scanned pretty rapidly. So I think the image capture process, once it was all set, took no more than 25 minutes. And rendering, as I sat here, took no longer than 30 minutes to process that data. So you're looking at about a box per hour at this magnification, which is honestly pretty good. So that's very neat. So what we'll do is we will export this image to disk. That way we can display it later on. We're just going to select the same folder and hit save. And then you can see that in the background here, I am still working on the Photoshop merge, so we can kind of compare the two. There, like I said, there's a number of different software programs that you can use. So if you're not necessarily happy with what we just saw on Image Composite Editor, which I was actually really happy with the speed, I'm not so happy with the way that it aligned the borders. They're really misaligned, but what was very important is that the central data, the actual butterflies, it looks like it merged those exceptionally well, which is really nice to see. We'll see how Photoshop produces this in the next video, 4.1. But for now, what we'll do is we'll sort of pause here. I don't know how long Photoshop is going to take in order to process or render this image. A couple things we could do: we could actually re-render the file in some of these programs. I also find that if you basically give these programs 100% of your computing power, they work a lot better as well. So sometimes if you're partitioning out memory because you're doing them side by side, you actually get a worse result than if you sort of threw all of your computing power at one software program. I also did see that in Image Composite Editor, that program was in need of an update. So that actually could also explain why the edges were a little misaligned. But again, no quarrels with the internal data. The data is good there. I did find the link in order to download the Image Composite Editor from Microsoft, so I'm going to include that in the comments section below. But again, what we'll do is, depending on the outcome of Photoshop's merge, we'll either complete the merge and show it in the next video, or we will process it in strips, in rows or columns, and then merge the data together that way. That way, if there's ever a troubleshooting occurrence, I can show you how to sort of work through those. It's a little bit longer, but at least you still have the ability to manually process those images. So go ahead, let's stay tuned for that video. Thank you for watching video 4.0. This should get you pretty near complete to through the series for using the Macropod MacroBox. That's all the way from setting up the system all the way to producing an image of the sample you're digitizing. So again, I'm Mark Smith with Macroscopic Solutions. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more content. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you. Have a nice day.